Have you ever stopped to think about the fact that we're all hurtling through space on a giant spinning rock? Well, what if that rock just stopped? We're about to dive into a wild thought experiment that's part disaster movie, part mind-bending physics, to see what would happen if the Earth just stopped. Okay, so picture this. For just 5 seconds, that's it, just 5 seconds, the Earth's rotation comes to a screeching halt. The planet stops, but everything else, the air, the oceans, you and me, we all keep going. So what happens when you slam the emergency brake on an entire planet?
Well, the short answer? Absolutely everything. In just those 5 seconds, the world we know would be, well, it would be gone. Totally and catastrophically rewritten.
All right, so to really get our heads around why stopping is such a disaster, we gotta first understand why we're spinning in the first place. You know, it's not just some random thing. It's a core feature of our planet.
It all boils down to this really cool physics thing called the conservation of angular momentum. Now stick with me here. The easiest way to think about it is like a figure skater. You've seen them, right? When they pull their arms in, they spin way faster. Well, our planet was kind of born the same way. It all came from this giant swirling cloud of gas and dust that clumped together, and just like that skater, it started spinning. And because there's pretty much nothing in space to slow it down, it's just kept on going for like 4.6 billion years. That spin is what defines our entire world.
Okay, so now imagine we hit the brakes on that 4 billion year spin. The solid ground, the continents, everything stops. But our atmosphere? Oh no, it doesn't get the memo. It just keeps on going at its original incredible speed. And that, my friends, is where the first wave of absolute destruction kicks off.
So, if you were standing at the equator, where the Earth spins fastest, you'd suddenly be slammed by winds moving at 1,670 kilometers per hour. Let me say that again. That's not just a strong wind, that's a supersonic wind. We're talking faster than the speed of sound.
Now here's where it gets really, really terrifying. Look at this. That supersonic zone, it's not some far-off empty place. It covers the area where 85%, yes, 85% of all humans live. Pretty much everyone on Earth would be caught in the path of this planetary-scale sandblaster.
And to put that kind of speed into perspective, think about the most powerful hurricanes we've ever seen. They top out around 315 kilometers per hour, which is already terrifying, right? This stop wind would be more than 5 times stronger. It wouldn't just knock down houses. It would be strong enough to literally scrape the top layer of the Earth's crust clean off, grinding every single thing we've ever built into dust.
You know, this reminds me of a great quote from the comedian Ron White. He was talking about hurricanes and said, "It's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing." And that is horrifyingly true here. The real danger isn't just the air itself. It's the fact that everything, and I mean everything not anchored deep into the bedrock, becomes a supersonic bullet. Buildings, cars, maybe even your neighbor's fancy underground bunker.
So yeah, the land is getting absolutely scoured by supersonic winds. But as if that's not bad enough, now we have to talk about the oceans, you know, the things that cover 70% of our planet. They're about to go on their own little rampage.
See, our planet isn't a perfect ball. Because it's spinning, it bulges out a little bit in the middle, around the equator. It's kind of like when you spin a pizza dough. And that bulge holds a truly mind-boggling amount of ocean water in place. So, what do you think happens when the force creating that bulge just vanishes?
You get what's basically a double tsunami event. First, the planet stops, so it relaxes back into a perfect sphere. All that water at the equator has nowhere to go but towards the poles. That's wave 1, a global tsunami. Then, just 5 seconds later, the Earth kicks back on. The bulge reforms, and all that water comes roaring back to the equator. It's this catastrophic 1-2 punch of planet-sized waves.
And we're not talking about your average wave here. This would be a turbulent, churning wall of water, the single largest storm surge in the history of the world. It would sweep miles and miles inland, scouring every single west-facing coastline on the entire planet. And it would do it twice.
Okay, deep breath. After those 5 seconds of pure chaos are up, the winds finally die down, the massive waves recede, what would the world even look like? And could anyone, anywhere, have possibly survived to see it?
I mean, it seems impossible, right? The entire surface of the planet would be an unrecognizable wasteland. But there are a few places where some lucky or maybe unlucky people might just manage to hang on.
The most likely survivors? Probably people who were already deep underground.
Think miners or maybe scientists in those super deep subterranean labs, totally shielded from the surface. But also, and this is kind of amazing, the scientists at the Amundsen-Scott Research Station at the actual South Pole. Why them? Well, they're standing right on the planet's axis of rotation, where the spin speed is pretty much zero. For them, they'd probably just notice all communications went dead and wonder why the sun wasn't moving across the sky anymore.
For anyone who did survive, the new world would be bizarre. Even that tiny 5-second pause would be enough to throw our clocks and calendars out of whack. But what if the stop was permanent? Then things get really weird. Our day would last an entire year. Imagine that. 6 straight months of brutal, scorching sunlight, followed by 6 months of absolute freezing darkness.
And the climate? Total chaos. All that energy that was just dumped into the atmosphere and oceans would create weather systems we can't even imagine. Think massive, permanent thunderstorms that circle the globe, and a thick, dense fog just hanging over the churning oceans. It would be a truly alien world. But here's one last incredible little twist. Our moon, our faithful old companion, would actually start to fight back. Its gravitational pull, the same one that causes our tides, would start to tug on the now stationary Earth, trying to get us spinning again. It would be incredibly, incredibly slow, taking thousands and thousands of years. But it's a tiny glimmer of cosmic hope.
Okay, wow. That was an absolutely terrifying scenario. So let's all just take a second, step back from that apocalypse, and get back to the comforting reality of our spinning world.
And here's the really good news. This is all completely hypothetical. The laws of physics we talked about earlier, that conservation of angular momentum, basically guarantee that the Earth can't just slam on the brakes. There is literally no force out there big enough to make it happen. Our planet is going to keep spinning, nice and steady, for billions more years. The real eventual end for Earth isn't it stopping, but our own sun getting old and expanding into a red giant. But hey, that's like 5 billion years from now, so I think we've got some time.
You know, thinking through this whole crazy scenario really makes you realize how much of our existence is tied to this constant, silent motion that we never even feel. Our 24-hour days, the weather, the very shape of the oceans, it all comes back to the spin. Kind of makes you appreciate the ride we're on, doesn't it?